most likely not everybody you come across will connect with you or what you
Like my
share.
style? Hit the subscribe button so you
That
don't miss any
expression
future
that you
videos.
offer, they might not resonate with it. And that doesn't mean that what you initially tried to produce or to give wasn't, inherently cool or, valuable. They just might not have been on the same wavelength to be able to pick up on it. Or they might not have found it interesting. The presentation might have not been, the best. But it doesn't mean that your idea sucked. And it doesn't mean that, the collection of thoughts that you have are any less treasured than, those that have been more widely celebrated and appreciated for their ideas. Because at the end of the day, what separates, somebody considered successful and celebrity in the public eye versus anybody else? I mean, I'm not a celebrity, but what I think is perhaps being at the right place at the right time, perhaps building a career for an extensive period of time. So the history, maybe family ties, maybe, genuinely incredible ideas that have been heard by the right people. There's a lot of different ways. So I hope that, whoever's watching this won't be dissuaded to continue to put things out there just because it's not being received well. I used to be super active on social media because I thought that, posting, and just constantly sharing my stuff was the key. And maybe for some people it is. I'm not going to tell you, as somebody that never reached that status, that that's not going to work. But I think my perspective about it changed because, where I once probably was more a quantity over quality in terms of what I produce, at some point I kind of switched that mentality to prioritizing the best that I could give to the world. And the mode just happened to be social media, but I am not restricted to that mode, nor do I feel pressured to post a certain amount, because I'd rather invest more time into crafting my ideas in a way that feels deeply authentic, feels powerful, and understood hopefully by a few people. So I'm okay with taking a cut on that. Instead of reaching so many people, I'm okay with hopefully being heard by a select few that deeply connect and deeply, value the words and ideas that I bring to the table. And so that's just another way to think about it. Numbers are an illusion in a lot of ways. And maybe I can share a little bit of poetry that I wrote a few years ago, which is about illusion. And I had this idea, it's in the word illusion, I lose Zen. It's so similar, kind of a pun. I lose everything when I search for an illusion. So when you are trapped by numbers, when you are trapped by perception, which is often associated with that data, you will start to lose track and sight of your own goals and your meaning in your work that you do and share. So remember, just because you're not seeing those numbers, it doesn't mean that what you're sharing sucks. There are so many factors, as I mentioned, that go into it. And statistically speaking, there's not spots for everybody to be an Instagram celebrity or, a public figure. So your opportunity might not lie in that sector. And that's what I've discovered is I don't think that I'm meant for, that type of fame per se, because I know what I offer is not typically sought after. And it's something that's a bit more critical and probably reflective on its face. So I'm not, discouraged by that fact. And I hope you won't be either. So just consider those different factors carefully. Be open to the fact that maybe, what you post is more niche. You might be in a more niche category of so-called content. You might also be, characterized in a certain way in the public that is not, as marketable and not as trendy, If you're not doing dances, if you're not talking about current events, if you're not talking about, these buzzwords that most people like to hear, other public figures, talking shit, talking about gossip, how this person is done, this career is over, this person, is a disaster. It's a lot of also negative stuff that generates a lot of viewership. And of course, those people would never admit that they're feeding off of that. For those that do put more genuinity and positivity into the world, or overlap in the artist space, it's only natural that you won't be as appreciated, at least in the short term. And I've been doing this, I'm not somebody that just started YouTube or just started, creating. It's been almost a decade now that I've been making videos, and, from art to languages to just general, reflective type of content. I've been doing it for a while, and even in my bubble, my space, I still am not generating too much, of an audience. But as I mentioned, it's okay. And I feel comfortable because I know that those that do watch my stuff appreciate it, and I've had some really valuable comments that have really encouraged me to keep going. So I hope you'll keep going as well, and consider what I said if you're open to it. Just consider the fact that maybe there's multiple ways to get to where you want to go, and social media may or may not be the best vehicle for it. In fact, I might even suggest that it's not, because of how saturated and, degenerate it's becoming. So for somebody to find you, they would have to sift through so much, unless you're willing to compromise your style, perhaps, for something that is more widely interpreted as normal, typical, or, trendy. So that's an argument you'll have to make with yourself, which is better, perhaps which is more ethical, and ultimately gets you closer to where you want to be. And there's no rush. If you've just started out, then please be patient, please, because you're not going to be an overnight success in most cases unless you're willing to go down perhaps unfavorable routes, or to just capitalize off of somebody else's work. And I experimented a little bit with that, just to kind of see what would happen. And this was about 4 years ago when Reels were becoming a thing on Instagram. And I also tried some of those trends and challenges, never any of the stupid dance stuff, but, making videos that were templated and curated to a certain concept. And they always did better than my original stuff, which was so ironic, and it's like originality is punished in a way with that algorithm system that really favorites, following and, order. So that, again, it should not be a dissuasion to pursue the route that you want. It's just information that hopefully can help you to make a path for yourself, to feel comfortable in that path, and perhaps to motivate others to follow their own. Because if we're all following the same path, then sure, we're going to receive some positive reception, but we're always going to receive whatever the coattails were, the remnants of the reception from the last person. So if we weren't the original artist or the best one to do it, we're going to see that we're going to have diminishing return as we continue to follow and to mimic. So I refuse to do that, and quality has become something that I prioritize more than ever. And that means, of course, I'm going to post less. I'm going to follow the crowd less. I'm going to really push forth my own ideas, but make sure that they are in a place that feels ready and complete before sharing them. And if you're interested, I might point you to some of my larger works just to get an idea of the type of quality that I refer to. Because these sort of daily, reflective, philosophical language videos, that is not necessarily what I'm referring to. I'm talking about on a project level. Of course, here I want to talk openly and discuss, and I'm still not trying to crank out videos. It's more of, hopefully a productive time to contribute to somebody. And those projects, check out, I'm going to link in the bio. Specifically, would love you to check out my project Volviendo, which is the kind of autobiographical coming of age story for my youth, in which I was adopted from Ukraine and eventually came to the US as a small child. And that's probably one of the best things I've ever produced. And if I had followed the formula for social media and content creation, that probably never would have came to be realized, at least not in the format that I took it. So that's one thing. There's a few others I would like to mention, but I don't want to, drag that out. So there's, one final thing I'll say, which is that you're going to encounter a lot of resistance, and most people, unless they strike big, strike gold, are going to have their fair share of moments where they feel like quitting and they feel like just dropping their ideas. But even if your idea was just a moment, it was just a note for somebody else to read, metaphorically speaking, then shouldn't that be enough? If you're still paving the way for somebody else down the road, then you are contributing to something bigger, and that idea might be what it takes to revolutionize a particular field, or to increase the level of thought in some area, and your progress would have naturally catalyzed, an element of that. So think optimistically, think about the future, and think about the people that you are contributing to ultimately. Even if it's just 3 people, 5 people watching your videos. Imagine that one person that you can't see is taking a lot of positivity and genuine appreciation from your work that they can then put into their own. So all that said, I hope you'll stay positive and you will continue to create no matter what. Don't give up, don't quit. You got this. So until the next one, peace. And I don't want to miss this. Definitely subscribe if you like what I do, if you appreciate my work, and if you want to pass it forward a little bit, as I continue to create. So now, take care and peace.